Yesterday, when the president was at the Nairobi Stock Exchange, he said, these calls which you allude to, Prof, that you're making for me to go, the person who would come in, what would they do differently? He's alluding to that he's doing the best that he can with what he has. Would it be any different if he was considering what people were saying? Should he not say what he's saying? He truly does believe that in the position in which he's in, with the resources and the people that have been granted to him, that he's doing the best that he can.
Well, it depends on who comes in. You can get a dunderhead and things will not be any better. Or you can get somebody who is serious and thinks properly. Because there's an attitude issue here. Unfortunately for the president, from what we hear, he doesn't listen to advice very well. From what we hear, I don't know for sure because I've never interacted with him. But he's not the only one who is guilty of that.
Okay.
That we know. So it's an attitude thing. I think we've got our policy orientation wrongly. And that comes from having incompetent people in positions. If you have an incompetent person making policy, you can be sure that policy will be no good. And that's what has been happening. I think the president, he still has 2 years to reorganize himself. He has to come down to earth and stop living in the sky. I believe he's genuine in what he's saying because there is some sort of a religious conviction in his, although he's wrong. What do we have? Productivity has gone down. Wealth production.
In the country?
In the country. We understand about more than 30 or so international investors have left Nairobi, have left Kenya, and they've gone to neighboring countries. Those are thousands of jobs that you can, and that's income.
Yes.
The taxes have shot up, yet revenue collection is low. And why is that the case? It's because the economy is not doing very well. And if the economy was to expand by emphasizing local production, there's no reason why we should be importing so many things that can be easily manufactured here. But we have an appetite for importing things because there is. And we see the example from the top of that sort of thing. So if the production of basic foods was to remain in Kenya, those are jobs, But we are importing food. We're importing small things like eggs, even carrots. So you know, why is that? So the emphasis is wrong. So you should be thinking of how to increase production of even the small people, and you don't increase the production by overtaxing them into poverty, which is what has been going on. So that's one area we can look into, increase budgeting is also a problem. So what do we have in budgeting when you look at it? We start with dreams of what we want. And then you worry about where to get the money. So there is a disconnect between the actual budget and actually the dreams are taken care of first before the hard facts. So we have education is underfunded. Health is underfunded. The basic things that make people happy are not.
Or that they need, the basic things that they actually need.
The basic needs are not. Yeah, they're not. But I understand the hospitality budget is very high in some places. So the chai and mandazi budget, that one is there. And you get other people, all these helicopters, we see people riding in, and we understand they are now personal property. How some people have enough money to buy helicopters, not to mention fleets of petrol guzzlers the show of these conspicuous consumption is very evident, especially among those who sometimes may be described as the Rutocrats, and they show off. And some of them, their mouths are toxic. They say things that really dishearten. There was a lady from Wajir who repeated something that somebody else had said. We are going to steal the votes. We are going to... Wait a minute, what are you talking about? Anyone listen to this, say, wait a minute, we are in a mess, If this is somebody who is in parliament, and she's not the first, to come up with say that how they are going to rig.
Yeah.
And how some are talking about, let's change the constitution to remove the 2-term limits, which Moi imposed. Moi is the one who imposed the 2-term limits when he thought he might lose the election. So he did. But it was a good thing. And now some people are saying, let's remove this one so that some people can be there for as long as Moi was or more. They are disheartening. And people say, we have a problem. And it's an attitude thing from the top. So if somebody was to come that thinks more seriously about the country than creating a legacy of some kind, then it would happen. I cannot say who it is because it might be a disaster, but it can be done. And the best example you can say, Kibaki did it.
He did it.
Yeah.
In this country.
He did it. Yeah.
Prof, is it earlier on you talked about our mental our attitudes and you're saying these are things from the top, and you're looking at the crop of leaders we have and some of the things like you're saying their mouths when they speak, some of the things that are coming out of their mouths. But is it also in the way we have been cultured around our politics? And I say this because every 5 years Kenyans are driven to a place where you have hopes, you have aspirations, and you are told this is what we will do when we take over. So you're taking somebody on a high tide, and you give people hope, and then immediately government is formed, everything nosedives. And then again we go through another cycle. Right now we are in the middle of that. There's a group that is saying, look, when you give us this thing, this is what we are going to do. And the president yesterday was saying, guys, give me time. Why are you pushing me? The things I promised I will do, I'll still do them. And he's almost trying to endear himself back to the people's hearts. My question is, how is it our style of politics we need to change from the point of how somebody is actually campaigning to the point of election? Because somebody said, how many millions does an MCA need to run a campaign? How many millions? 50 million for an MP to run a campaign, for example. Where is that person getting that 50 million? They're either taking loans or borrowing from friends. Immediately they're elected, what then do we expect them to do? They have to recoup back the money that they spent with interest. And then the moment you're exposed to those huge amounts of money, therein comes greed. And so you look at the patterns of you look at the dailies today, every story, there is a money factor in every story.
And a big one.
The Auditor General every week is giving figures of how much money we are losing, how much is unaccounted for. And we are almost becoming numb to these huge figures because a few years back, when you talked about $1 million, that was a lot of money.
You'd be taken aback.
Yes. Today we talk about
when 1,000 was a lot of money.
Exactly. Now you talk about 100+ billion lost, and that figure doesn't seem to move us. We've become numb because every time the numbers keep going up. Where is the problem? Is it just individuals? Because even this next crop of leaders who say we are going to do this, they're not necessarily clean.
No, they're not. So there need to be serious change, attitude change. One of the positive developments is that, particularly the youth, they're asking questions. And they're not very much impressed. Although we noted their attempt to lure them with some fancied vehicles and to see whether they toe the line. But the encouraging part is the determination to continue asking questions. And they are really not interested in these people's big money. Some of them have a little money of their own. So the money is not the issue. But the mentality, the bad policies, because that's what they are. And when the people are suffering, they notice the suffering is across the country. And therefore they are concerned with who is responsible for this. We know right now some MPs, despite the amount of money they have, will not see the parliament again. That one we know. Because people are fed up. Mm-hmm. And if people are fed up, then you know that's a good sign, that the money will not be the issue. Yes, the money is always a factor. And sometimes when I advise, if anybody listens to advice, if you have 50 million or 30 or 10 million to waste, go into it. Because you can lose, but then your lifestyle should not change.
Change if you
because
do.
Of, so if you are going to go up crazy, and we've seen some people looking crazy because they lost, don't do it. But if you think you can, okay, go ahead. But we have also seen people spending money and losing to people who did not spend what?
Money.
Because there is also that ability to measure. The public is not that stupid, usually. Because they vote for the person they think is best for them at the time. They may be wrong. And sometimes, there is this thing that people keep on talking about. Oh, our voting, is always tribal. That's nonsense. There's an element of it, but it is nonsense. Because deep down, when people go to vote, they vote for the best candidate they think is the best at the time.
Okay.
And the best examples I usually give is the way Kanu won in 1961 and 1963 against Kadu. What was Kadu created for? To gang up, so-called 42 against 2. That's what it was. And logically, there's no way 2 can defeat 42. Logically. Yet it happened. And the question becomes, how did it happen? For the simple reason that the voters are more intelligent than their leaders. So they know who is supposedly looking after their interest and the one who is selling out. At that time, Kadu was portrayed or appeared to be selling out to the settlers and the bridge. That's what voters say, no, we don't want you. Yet, the leaders kept on telling them this. So what happened? We have other instances. In the last election in which Ruto won, Uhuru Kenyatta supported Raila. And there was an assumption because he had told people to vote this way, they will. They didn't. So you ask them, why is it that they refuse to vote that way? And then you find the reasons are likely to be in Uhuru's administration itself. They were angry with what might have happened during the period. And thereby, Ruto gave him credit for looking as if he's the better option. He did look like a better option.
He was the victim at the time.
Yeah, then
he
was
played the victim.
Yeah, he did a pretty good job of playing
the
victim.
narrative then was it's hustlers versus dynasties.
And the dynasties were to blame for what had happened.
And you see what happened during the COVID time. And Uhuru was blamed for it. There were demolitions of houses in some of these areas.
Yes.
And people are crying at night. Uhuru, what's going on? And it appeared as if they were not listened to. It made a lot of people very angry. And they blamed Uhuru for it. Then you have the demolitions of businesses in Gikombanya Makema. Things happened. And who was blamed for it?
Uhuru.
Uhuru. And he did not have a good answer. And then when people raise questions, when he starts saying that Ruto is not a good man, they say, what happened? You told us he was a very good man. And so you are the one who said kumi kumi, yeah? So what happened? And he had no answers. And this fellow playing a victim, he was clever. Complaints started within Uhuru's first term. And some people complain. So it was Ruto, I remember he went to the people and said, don't complain. Uhuru wants to be re-elected. So he's doing some things that... and people understood. They said, okay, you see what we do. So if there is to be blames, look at what happened in Uhuru in order for Ruto to exploit. And he did a pretty good job of exploiting that.
Is it now working also in reverse? Because now Ruto is president.
Yes.
His former deputy has gone around the country. He's currently in the United States doing exactly the same thing that he did when he was deputy to Uhuru.
I think that's why I think Wetangula, if he's quoted right, and I think he was, saying he advised Ruto not to do what he did, impeaching Gachagua. Says an epic blunder of monumental proportions. Now, and it is true, because the whole impeachment saga was useless. It was uncalled for, but it's that desire to assert authority, power. It was Boss Shalai who told us, boss, you told us to kick the guy out.
We're following orders.
So we did. And initially he had refused, he had denied, but it was ego thing. Yeah? Kicking out Gachagua helped Gachagua in a very big way. Because from the minute he was sworn in as deputy president, which he blundered in the swearing, he had wanted very much to be considered as the leader of the mountain. He wanted people to follow him. And they were not. Because his past record was also questionable. And so being kicked out was a blessing to him. And instead of staying politically dead, he resurrected him. And he's doing a pretty good job of it. And of gaining popularity. So he's a good mobilizer. But I think he'd be far-fetched to imagine that he can become president after Ruto.
As with anything, when you're looking towards a solution, that you have to look at different formula. You try this one, if it fails, you go on to another one. You try another one, you add a little bit of something here, you remove the other thing. How do you know who an individual is who is right and ripe for leadership beyond intention? How will you know that someone's intent is not is to lead the country and actually do it and do it right? That along the line you will not see that they may deviate from that which they told you they would do. Do we have historical examples? And then maybe pointing towards the present, whereby this is what somebody said they were going to do, and they did it.
They did it. Well, I think looking at somebody's historical record would help. And the circumstances under which somebody operated. And people who have shown ability to deal with crises in a positive way, then that's a good sign. And there are a few people who have shown that they can deal with crises in a positive way. They're not very many, but they are there. And in times of hardship, somebody comes up and emerges, and people say, here he is. That's the one. Sometimes I like talking about Moi Kibaki. See, Moi Kibaki was never number one to anyone. Or maybe except Udaya. But he was always number two to almost everybody. So when all the number ones cancelled each other, who remained there?
He did.
And his record was that people could see, we know this guy. He's a deep thinker from the time he was an assistant minister. He helped Mboya to craft the sessional paper number 10. And if you look at Vision 2030, it's an update of sessional paper.
Number 10.
He's a deep thinker, long-term thinker. People knew that. even when, they knew him. So I remember one friend of mine, when Moliro died. He was a Moliro guy, yeah? And then he says, now whom do we have? Then he says, Kibaki. And that's why I got the idea. Kibaki was always number 2. If you can't have the one you want, who is next? Kibaki. And people identified Kibaki. A long time. In 2002, Kibaki had already won. 6 months earlier, people knew. And his team with Ngilu and Wamalwa, they had created, they were winning. When Moi decided to play a game on Raila, by appointing Uhuru, the game was already done. What Raila did, and this is credit to his political genius, was to jump on the winning side and then make it look as if he's the one.
It's like Kibaki Tosha.
Yeah. He dumped Nyachai, who had been paying for his expenses. The same day, he had an MOU with Nyachai. And Nyachai was furious, given all the money he had spent on rail. And then the guy jumped. But the reason he did that, good political sense, he could have been a candidate and lose like himself and father before. He could have supported Uhuru, which was not acceptable. He could support Nyachai, but Nyachai was going nowhere. It was very clear. So join the winning side and make it appear as if you are the one.
Do you think he's currently a political genius still?
Well, I think he'll be a candidate.
Raila?
Yes. Not so much to win, but to create a bargaining chip. Because he's very good at that. The last election was his to win or to lose, and he chose to lose. People were celebrating before they had even voted. And you say, now, why are you celebrating? You have not voted. So we are told that about 700,000 or 800,000 people failed to vote in his area, and they were celebrating. And he lost by only 200. So, but the record is that he loses, then he makes good capital out of it.
So at the end of the day, he doesn't lose either way?
No. He benefits materially and in other ways, without responsibility.
Well, there's a lot to watch and a lot to see opening up in time. And at the end of the day, that the people will make a decision around, what they see. And looking into some of those insights, great to always share them and to then be able to see which direction truly things are going in. Professor Macharia Munene has been our guest this hour. Thank you for joining us this morning.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.